Let's start with a poem by Teresa. This is what she sent me, something from last century, perhaps. I found archaeological. The day after Epiphany, I drive to Tuscaloosa, counting 18 dead animals on or by the road between Ottawa, Tennessee, and Oneonta, Alabama. The hawks, no longer frightened by the vehicles that kill for them, wait. I do not stop. I teach English. I said, you got to read that. She didn't. I said, okay, I'm reading it. That's what, I go to the coffee houses and open mics around Atlanta and the slam poetry scene. That's what they call OPP. Does everybody know what OPP is? It's other people's poetry. It's kind of a hip-hop thing to say. Okay, so this first poem is forthcoming, that most glorious word, from Alligator Juniper. It's a really nice magazine out of Arizona. They asked me to write a Genesis statement about this poem. The time when this poem came to you, it's a time and a place that we all know, where we're grocery shopping, and we're spaced out in front of the olive oils, right? So many olive oils. Each one better than the other one. If you pick the wrong one, something bad could possibly happen to you. But when I was growing up in the 1950s, we didn't need olive oil. We had congealed bacon grease. Bacon grease. We used it every day, never got sick. A scooped glob into the iron skillet for fried grits, grilled cheese, anything really. Its jar on the stove, a vertical Rothko, top creamy layers melding first to ochres, then a burnt speckled brown, the mysterious Precambrian band we never got to, since there was always a new pour-off. From each morning's bacon. A father's job, 2 hands on the handle, 2 tendons rising up his forearm. Today's hot fat dissolving yesterday's, but not for long. By lunch, the bubbling had reverted to its stasis of gel, an arterial caution we never heeded, because this was my great aunt's kitchen. Under her protection, this was the place where things were kept as they always were. And once the pan was hot, the grease crackling, raw chicken was touched with hands that then touched whatever they wanted. Shocking. Fridge door handles, mouths, knives in flaking lead paint drawers. Under the sink was an open rat poison box, its skull and crossbones so very normal. Rare pork chops for dinner, thermometers broken to retrieve the toy of quicksilver. Mercury rolled from one child's palm to the next. Smoke trails from both parents' camels at dinner time. Summer's rotating fan, always cageless, its cord frayed at the overloaded plug. Pennies in the fuse box. Metal garbage can bottoms writhing with afternoon maggots. My great aunt drawing the line at that one. Prescribing a pour of bleach and then hot water. That was my job. Kill all those baby flies. Okay, so there's a lot of talk about guns these days. Guns. It's good to have a discussion about guns. And it reminded me that I had my own little shotgun. But I had a very sad relationship with it. Memory came flooding back to me this afternoon. I mean, not this afternoon, but other certain day, actually. This is called Hello the House. On the one day Daddy takes me hunting, his last night's goose breath stinks up the ford as we drive far from town with 2 shotguns rattling around, same as us, unrestrained. The word safety in those days just meant a small lever down near the trigger. We end up hiking deep into damp woods to a rise above an unpainted house. Smoke trails from its leaning stone chimney. He cups his hands and screams, "Hello, the house!" in such a quick, loud voice it makes me jump. Manners, he says, that keeps you from getting shot. He says the holler goes way back, but who cares? Now I'm just worried about getting shot. Presently the door opens for a frail woman waving a hanky from the slanting porch. We wave back, duck through her 3-strand fence, and walk down to a creek where I am to wait while he circles around and flushes rabbits, doves, anything with a beating heart through that long fold to where I'm sitting on a boulder with the smell of gun oil. I can see my breath. The shotgun is heavy, even though it's a boy-sized weapon. I know he wants me to shoot something, but I can't stop doing what I do best, seeing the other person's side of things, what it takes to make sense of his drinking. I keep thinking about the porch woman. Is there a man? Is there even a TV? There had been no antenna on the roof, so she's probably never watched Bonanza. I release my safety and wonder how I'll do when something comes running or flying past. He has waited too long to bring me out here. My days are passed with games involving balls. I'm cityfied beyond reclamation. I will see the rabbit side of things when it comes bounding by with great leaps. In 10 years, I will be enduring knee pain, trying to sit zazen with right practice in a faraway foghorn city. I will want to learn the Roshi side of things, his line of teachers reaching back so far, and so my own lineage of knowing how to hello the house will die right here with me, except that I tell it to you today. That's, we always, as hippies, we were always going to jump on the Buddhist, jump on the Hindus, jump on the Sufis. It was always better, so we sort of let our own traditions die down a little bit. Okay, so I know this is a sort of, we've all been to these receptions where we get a little uncomfortable after a big reading where somebody's super famous there and you're actually talking to somebody, but you're not really concentrating on the person you're talking to. Where is she? Where is he? Can I get over there and talk to them? Yeah. So anyway, this is one of those situations, and it's still a conversation with you, but I do want credit for each of these lines having 10 beats to them. Although it does sound conversational. Somebody called it, one of my kids called it iambic pedantic. Pedantic. He made some word. It was very funny. Pedantic. Yeah, pedantic. After the big reading, I end up at the reception with Joel, where we pretend to have deep conversation while tracking the visiting great man, Robert Bly, trapped in the galley kitchen by a circle of the overly aftershaved, whose manly annoyed because there's no room for us to squeeze in, catch Bly's soft, slightly lisped words that must be telling some fresh hero stories. So Joel and I cling to each other like prom nerds, yet we do feel superior for not being kitchen suck-ups. And since we're next to the wine, it's not so bad. Plus, I've got questions for Joel, who teaches religion. I've got questions about Arjuna, the Bhagavad Gita's conflicted hero, Vedic gaps that Joel is happy to fill in. Correct me, actually, for this makes us look like we really are having a good talk instead of just waiting for a chance to wedge ourselves into the kitchen with Robert Bly. Joel says, no, I have the story all wrong. Arjuna was a mortal, not a god. Arjuna was an exalted warrior who looked out over the great Hindu battlefield to his friends and teachers on the other side. No, I won't, Arjuna says. I cannot go kill them. Which was when his chariot driver revealed himself as Purple Lord Krishna, enforcer of duties. Krishna going, no, warriors must war, same as cobblers make shoes. And this goes on for hundreds of pages, the basis of India's caste system laid out. And by now, I'm wanting to say something to Joel. I want to hold up my end of the conversation. I want to say anything to at least compete with his smarts. But I'm also remembering Pulp Fiction, Uma Thurman's famous question to John Travolta. When you're in a conversation, are you listening or are you just waiting to talk? So yes, I'm very busted for waiting to talk, but I can't stop myself. I go, wow, Arjuna, that was kind of like that old Ricky Skaggs song, isn't it? Don't get above your raisin. But Joe frowns, shakes his head, says, not really. Just as another kitchen, washes over us. And this makes us see that how we're being Arjuna right now. We're schmoozers at a schmooze fest who look for moral high ground instead of just elbowing into the kitchen and doing our duty. The moment's clarity propelling me to confess my sad hopes for this after-reading party. My hopes had been that I was going to engage Robert Bly in deep talk, such a soulful exchange he'd remember me, perhaps supply a generous blurb in that daydreaming future of my second book. I was going to ask him about his dust-up with James Dickey in the 1960s over Dickey's bad boy poem, The Sheep Child, with its wink to bestiality. And then I was going to say, I like that poem. What this Bly would think that admirable, quaint even, Southern loyalties and all that rot. But Joel makes a face, says, I'm wrong again. Their public spat was more over Vietnam, Bly's pacifist versus Dickey's warrior, two poets playing out the great anger that had poisoned a confused country. Shots fired back and forth in the quarterlies. Right, I say, Dickey was Arjuna. He'd seen combat. That was his caste. He had no choice but to be the warrior. But Joel says, no, it went back further. It goes all the way back to the Scots-Irish temper, to Two Drovers, Sir Walter Scott's short story, perhaps the world's first short story. A Scotsman knifing his friend in a roadhouse over some stupid slight that could have passed but didn't. Hey, I go. That's like that Lucinda Williams song where Townes Van Zandt keeps getting in fights just because somebody looks at him wrong. Oh, looks at him wrong. Joe says no again. Her song was about somebody else. And now I'm really getting weary of being corrected all the time. Plus, I'm getting a hammering white wine headache. And I'm realizing I'll never make it into the kitchen. And that's really not so bad since I have so many things wrong or mixed up. So there's going to be no action for me tonight on the great schmoozing battlefield, which is the usual, although I did shake Jackie Wilson's hand one night, but probably only because my date had really big tits. So I find the host and I thank him because I do have manners. And on the way out, I see that Joel has wormed his way into the kitchen. And he's ho-ho-hoing it up with the rest. But now, it's not such a bad sound to me. It's just the noise people make when they laugh. And I don't need to hear any more hero stories. I'm my own. And on the way home, I'm planning my next move. That Miami conference this winter, Denise Duhamel will be there. She'll introduce me around. I won't drink so much. It'll be brilliant. So that's on the internet, and this place called A Baker's Dozen, which is a really nice little magazine. There you can go and count my syllables. My God. Even though there's some terrible line breaks, who cares?